Good evening. We're going to call this meeting to order. If you could please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And we are going to start with an introduction of our student representative.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome. I am very pleased to introduce to you our student representative this evening from Tavares High School. This is Ian Long, so welcome, Ian. Ian is an 18-year-old Tavares High School senior. He is involved with Student Government Association and serves as the president. He is also the president of the Future Farmers of America and is a livestock showman at the Lake County Fair. He is certified in agri-technology and ag mechanics. He is an active volunteer at the Tavares High School Agriculture Department's farm, Lake County Fair, and summer inner-city mission trips with Life Point Church. He is pursuing a degree in criminal justice at Seminole State College in the fall. So welcome, Ian, and we'll hear from you in just a second.
Welcome, Ian. Thank you.
Also with us tonight is our Teacher of the Year finalist, Faith Gilliland, teacher at East Ridge High School. So welcome to you. Ms. Gilliland has been teaching high school math for 11 years, 8th grade math for 2 years, and is currently teaching geometry. She had taught at other Florida schools outside of Lake County and in North Carolina. She uses her passion for teaching to introduce her lessons to the digital world, and that has inspired her to form her own YouTube channel, Gilly Geo, where she hopes to continue assisting students and teachers as they learn and teach geometry. And we'll hear from her in just a second as well.
All right, thank you for those introductions. And board members, we're going to make some adjustments after 2 weeks ago, and we have quite a bit of public input this evening as well. So I am going to ask for changes, amendments, additions, or deletions, but I want you to know beforehand that we are going to move the reports from our student representative and our Teacher of the Year finalist. Do you want to do the other reports as well?
Let's go ahead and move them all.
Move all the reports. So we're going to move all the reports before our public input section, and then we'll address our public input. Are there any other changes to our agenda? The superintendent's got one, yep.
I have 2 items, 8.03 and 8.04, that we're going to pull to discussion.
8.07.
Any others? Okay. All right, we have approval of the minutes.
Recommend approval of the minutes from the regular school board meeting, February 12th, 2018, the executive session for school safety, February 26, 2018, and the regular school board meeting, February 26, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. So at this point in time, we are actually going to come to our student representative, Mr. Long. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hello, my name is Ian Long. I'm a senior at Tavares High School serving as student representative for tonight's meeting. I also serve as the THS Student Government Association president and Tavares Future Farmers of America chapter president. It is an honor to be here tonight, and I am very appreciative of this opportunity to share with you all the achievements our Tavares students have worked so hard towards reaching in their respective sports and clubs. Our school's athletic program has put its students in position to accomplish so much, and they have represented Tavares High School incredibly. Our cross-country team won our regional championship and contended in the state championship. Our volleyball and girls basketball teams achieved district runner-ups. Our track team qualified in multiple state qualifying events. Our bowling team sent its female bowlers to the state qualifiers. Our boys weightlifting team are our district champions and regional champion contenders. The boys Tavares tennis team has been growing in numbers in the last years. The Tavares swim team has sent their female athletes to compete in multiple events on district, regional, and state levels. Our baseball team has won 5 games so far in this season, with 4 out of 5 senior players committed to play baseball during their college career. The Tavares High School athletics program is made up of not only stellar athletes, but is headed by coaches who take pride in their work training our students and exhibit at maximum efforts for our program with great compassion. Tiberias High School has an endless number of clubs for our students to take part in, and these programs sponsored by many teachers has had an incredible impact on these students as well as the school and the community. The Tiberias FFA currently has 29 livestock showmen exhibiting animals at the Lake County Fair. Its 10-man officer team and multiple members spend their time attending leadership conferences, competing in career development events, and raising livestock for our county and state fairs. This year we have 13 members receiving their state degrees at the FFA State Convention in June, and 2 graduated members receiving their American degrees at the National FFA Convention in October. The Tiberias CNA program has had a very positive impact on students building careers in the medical field. Over 1/3 of the CNA graduates last year gained employment in the healthcare field immediately after graduation. Approximately 75% of students that graduated from CNA programs are enrolled in a healthcare program at the college level. For the past 3 years, the CNA students have met or exceeded the average first-time pass rate of the state certification exam. And last year, 3 of the CNA graduates enlisted in the United States Navy and are currently serving as corpsmen. The Tiberias High School Band has an excellent program helping its members achieve musical greatness with winning superiors with the marching bands, jazz red and white bands, and multiple musicians making it into the all-district band. Our newly established Future Business Leaders of America is attending their state conference with 3 members participating in FBLA competitions. The THS Art Club has participated in multiple high school events, providing artwork and backdrops at dances and photo shoots. Our Key Club has worked to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network, volunteered at the local Boys and Girls Club and Osprey Lodge Assisted Living Home, and assisted in local community lake cleanup days. The Tiberias Best Buddies program has worked extensively to raise funds for their program, attending the Best Buddies Ball at UCF, and has had several students perform in the Special Olympics. Our Help Our Planet Earth Club is preparing 9 teams to participate in the Lake County Envirothon, in which the winning team will represent the county at the Florida State Envirothon. The Astronomy Club is working to grow plants from seeds they sent into the stratosphere in a new experiment they are testing. And our FCA Club is continuously growing and bringing students to Christ through the companionship and bonding it provides between students and athletes. Our Drama Club has continuously sold out shows performing The Little Mermaid, and the National Honor Society has raised the most amount of money for the club in the past 3 years. Our school has continued to support its students with providing a foundation and path for our young people's futures, and continues to serve as a prime source of education. With that said, I'd like to make a couple of comments on ensuring the security of our students in Lake County schools. It's been an issue that has gone far too long without being addressed, and as a student of the Lake County school system, all of my school career, this is my input here. I am a senior at Tiberias High School, president of the THS Student Government Association, president of the Tiberias Future Farmers of America. I am a gun owner and a member of our community. I am a son, a brother, and a student. I'm here today on behalf of many students and those looking for an effective solution to end violence and terror that is becoming all too often in our school systems. The first 18+ years of life for most American people is spent preparing for adulthood, and most of those 18 or more years are spent in the classroom. This time in the classroom is spent with 20 to 30 students at a time listening to their teachers, people dedicated to educating the next generation. Up until the last 25 years, schools were considered a safe place. Students, teachers, and school staff gave full focus to the children's education. They worked adamantly to help develop a foundation these kids could build off of as mature adults. These students, teachers, and school staff didn't have this recurring fearful notion in the back of their minds that they could be potential targets of evil up until the last 20 or so years. Unfortunately, society has changed. Domestic evil is growing. The feeling of hate and desire to take away from one another is spreading. The idea of individual responsibility and self-reliance is fading. We expect the government, or in other words, someone else, to protect us, to prevent tragedies from taking place, but time and again we have come to find that the government cannot get to their citizens in time, and those, specifically regarding this matter, students and teachers, are paying the price. It is time that we, the people, stop relying on someone else to protect us and allow willing, responsible teachers, administration, and other faculty and staff to carry or have access to firearms to prevent mass school shootings. School Board member Bill Mathias set forth a proposal to allow willing and qualified teachers to carry firearms to defend themselves and their students from mass shooters and other lethal threats to schools. Supported by our Sheriff, Peyton Grinnell, these teachers would undergo a rigorous vetting process, including background checks, psychological evaluations, intense firearm training with high qualification requirements, in which, if passed, those teachers would be appointed as school guardians by the county sheriff and given the tool they would need to successfully defend against deadly school threats. We have to come to a grim realization that those mass shootings have occurred in gun-free zones. These gun-free zones are targets for mass shooters. These zones suggest that threats will face little to no confrontation, diminishing the chances of being met with armed force. To prevent more tragedies from happening in our school system, it is imperative that we eliminate these gun-free zones. In order to deter these psychopathic killers, it is essential to permit our educators to take advantage of not only their Second Amendment right, but their God-given right to defend themselves and their students from this existing evil. Those who oppose chant and yell and cry out, our students and teachers shouldn't have to worry about defending themselves from school shooters. They're right, but the fact of the matter is that they do. Teachers now have to worry about the possibility of an armed and deranged, mentally ill killer walking through our unguarded entrances, jumping our unmonitored gates, and moving straight into our buildings, busting through glass and blowing through cheap doors, then taking aim and firing on our children. This is the world we live in. This is the new reality. Other staunch opponents to armed faculty and staff in our schools call for our education system to totally rely on law enforcement to protect us. They say, our teachers are here for the sole purpose to educate. Trust law enforcement to take care of our students. After the most recent mass school shooting, however, students and teachers' trust in law enforcement has been seriously shaken after the resource officer and other responding deputies to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School waited minutes to go in and engage an active shooter who took the lives of 17 people. Broward County authorities exhibited hesitation or arguably downright refusal to go in and engage an active shooter. When they do respond, it takes law enforcement minutes to respond to these children when they have seconds to live. Police response times are exponentially longer than the time it takes to carry out mass murder. The shooter is typically done within minutes of starting his killing spree. 2 armed, trained, and willing teachers would have the capability to respond and engage within seconds, well before 911 can dispatch units to the scene. People opposed to armed teachers in schools suggest that our educators are incapable and or unwilling to respond to or engage a deadly threat, when the truth is our educators take pride in their work and their students, your sons and daughters. Many of these educators are prior military or law enforcement personnel. They spend their days interacting with these children and get to know them on a personal level. And without a doubt, if a lunatic came through their doors with intent to kill them and their students, those educators would do whatever they could to defend your children or your wife in the classroom across the hall. Where's the harm in giving them the tools necessary to effectively defend those lives they will die for to protect? Some say that they are more likely to be killed, but what they don't say is that those teachers are more likely to be killed anyway because they are confronting deadly threats without lethal force at their disposal. Take MSD football coach Mr. Aaron Feast, for example, a hero who died shielding students around him. Imagine an armed school staff was determined to protect students reflective of Coach Feast. The outcome of MSD would have been significantly less severe. Some say you cannot effectively engage a shooter with a rifle when you're armed with only a pistol, but they cannot tell me that the trained and determined teachers with a handgun and a chance in hell aren't going to take it and put their lives on the line for their children. Many teachers are going to fight for their lives and their students' lives, and those teachers should be given the tools and the opportunity to effectively engage the evil they encounter. I am sick and I am tired of seeing news of children like me having their lives cut short by those who have a desire to do nothing but kill. I am sick and I am tired of the blame and the blood of the preventable deaths of children being placed on the hands of those who are not responsible. I am disgusted with the refusal to take action to prevent more deaths of helpless men, women, and children. It is time to stop complaining about why something happened It is time to get up and take self-responsibility. It is time to become self-reliant. It is time to secure our schools and reestablish these education centers as safe places to learn and grow. It is time to make schools a place where students and teachers can focus on preparing students for life in the real world. It is time we do something about our lacking school security and our students' safety. It is time to take action now. Thank you.
Mr. Long, we appreciate your passion and we appreciate your voice as one of our students in Lake County. Thank you very much for coming tonight and representing THS.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. All right. Mrs. Gilliland, we are looking forward to hearing from you now. Did I say that right?
Good evening. Let me start out by saying thank you to Dr. Cornegay, the School Board of Lake County, and the Educational Foundation for all you did to make the Teacher of the Year banquet such a wonderful celebration. That was a wonderful night. I know that I truly felt appreciated and special that night. And I would also like to publicly thank the sponsors who helped to make that night so special. When I was asked to come and speak to you all tonight, the first thing I thought of was the State of the Union address. So I thought I would treat this sort of as a state of the school/classroom address. The state of Eastridge High School is good. We are one night working together to make a difference in the lives of our students. Our administrative team works together to lead our faculty and staff toward that common goal. I know the geometry team and the math department are working together to reach and teach our students with a depth of knowledge that will help them now and in the future. We are student-centered and student-minded in the decisions we make. At least that's how I see it. The state of my classroom is also very good. My students are respectful and the majority are eager to learn. My classroom is also student-centered. My goal is to prepare them not just for the geometry end-of-course exam, which apparently is extremely important for our school grade, but for life. I try to encourage my students to be the best they can be. My high school band director would say, shoot for the moon and hope to hit the lamppost. But instead, let's say, shoot for the stars and hope to reach the stars. It is amazing to realize that many of our students are in our care for more hours in the day than their own parents. And that is quite a responsibility that I do not take lightly. I have had the privilege of teaching and impacting the lives of nearly 2,000 students. This whole Teacher of the Year experience has prompted me to ask myself, what kind of impact have I made? Have I done all I could to help them become good citizens of this world? Our job here is so much more than mathematics and academics. Of course, that is why we're here, but teaching is also about impacting lives. I would also like to offer a word of encouragement to you all, my fellow educators, those sitting in this room and watching tonight. Being chosen as a Teacher of the Year finalist was an unexpected gift, and to whom much is given, much is required. I am to be an example to my fellow educators. We all are. Let's be the kind of educators that others are drawn towards. Let's encourage our colleagues. Let's build one another up and not tear them down. If you are discouraged, as a teacher, as an educator, seek out help. Find someone with a positive outlook in whom you can confide. As iron sharpens iron, so we should sharpen one another. Don't seek out people who will dull your blade. Rather, seek out those who are first in their fields and have smiles on their faces and are happy to be here. Be a difference maker in the lives of our students and families, at our schools, in our beautiful county, in our great state of Florida, our nation, and even our world. Yes, the state of my classroom is good, and from the way I see it, the state of our Great Lake County is good and getting better. Thank you so much for the honor and the privilege to speak to you tonight. I do not take my responsibility as a teacher lightly. I will continue to represent the teaching profession and Lake County well.
Thank you very, very much. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate everything you do for our kids, especially teaching mathematics. Okay, I think we are at Carmen Colon Batt. I did see her. There she is. Educational Foundation.
Chairman, board members, superintendent, thank you. The foundation has an interactive website called Find It, Fund It, and we have had over 17 teacher grants posted to that this year, and 3 have been fully funded. And in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week, May 7th through 11th, the foundation board has voted to match every dollar donated on Find It, Fund It up to $5,000. We have had 465 teacher visits to our Apple Mart stores and have distributed $39,000 in supplies. The board voted to fund Eustis Heights Robotic Team entry fees for the 2018 VEX Robotics World Championship in the amount of $975, and Duke Energy grant funds were used for this donation. We will be honoring 43 Rookie Teachers of the Year on Wednesday, March 14th at Lake Sumter at 6:30. Eustis, Mount Dora, and Tavares culinary departments will be providing the reception sponsored by AXA Financial. Jessica Browning from Leesburg High School, Chelsea McCurdy from Lost Lake, and Courtney Stokes from Tavares High, our 3 finalists, are filled with anticipation to find out who the 2019 Rookie Teacher of the Year for Lake County will be. The Lake County Tourism and Development Council has been named the Lake County Schools and Foundation Business Partner of the Year. They will be honored locally at Night of Stars on April 18th at the college, and then by Commissioner Pam Stewart in Tampa on June 13th and 14th. Also honored at the Night of Stars are our school-related employees of the year, as well as our Lake County School Family of Volunteers. Insight Credit Union is the presenting sponsor. Take Stock in Children's Pass the Torch ceremony will be held on April 19th. We will be celebrating the 2018 graduating seniors and welcoming the class of 2022. This event is also at the college and is presented again by Insight Credit Union. We had 33 Take Stock in Children students attend a career speed dating, and we had 10 presenters from the local business community participate and share about their professions, and this occurred on March the 8th. The foundation is managing 7 scholarship accounts and will be distributing $60,000 in scholarships to the class of 2018. The Amazing Race, which will be held on April 7th in Eustis, has selected the foundation to be one of the major beneficiaries of this event. There's still time to sign up. It's a lot of fun, and you can find a link to participate on the foundation website. Ladies for Education, which is the fundraiser for women that do not play golf, is scheduled for May 4th at Continental Country Club. The retirement dinner is scheduled for May 17th at the college, and Stepping Out for Education is scheduled on July 26th, 27th, and 28th at Mission Inn. Area celebrities include Joyce Huey from 2 Hags, Casey Hobbs from United Southern Bank, Kirsten Nolan from Florida Cancer Specialist, attorney Frank Remsen, and Michael Randolph, our principal at Leesburg High School. The board will be meeting on March the 28th at noon in the district office, and then on April 25th, instead of our normal meeting, we're bringing in David Moore from Moore Strategic Consulting, and the meeting will be held at Rogers Park Building in Leesburg from 9 to 4. The goal of this planning session is to align the district and foundation programmatically to attract larger funders. Any questions?
No, thank you very much for everything you do. All right, and I think, Mr. Johnson, you're our last report for the evening. Nothing? Is that what you said? Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, we are at our public input section. I'm going to remind everybody that we provide 3 minutes for the public to speak. With the amount of speakers that we have this evening, we ask that when you hear the timer go off after 3 minutes, that you would finish your sentence and be seated. And I'm going to utilize both of the podiums to call people up to speak. So I will call you 2 at a time, one here, and then we'll kind of go that way. It ran pretty smooth the other night when we had public input. So we appreciate you guys being here. We appreciate you adhering to the 3 minutes. And we will begin with Sophia Ray. Rael, if you want to, Ray over here, and then I'm going to call Marie Dubois, if you want to come over here, Marie, and you can be ready when Miss Ray is finished. Welcome, Miss Ray. Rael, got it. Welcome.
My name is Sophia Rail. My sister, brother, and I have been in Lake County schools since we were in kindergarten, and my brother and I now attend East Ridge Middle School, and my sister is at South Lake High. I happened to be in Tallahassee on February 14th when I was working as a page in the House of Representatives for my rep, Larry Metz. We were all so sad when we heard what happened in Broward County. A week later, my grandma asked my brother and I if we would feel more or less safe if we knew there were some teachers and other people at our school with guns to protect us. We both told her we would feel more safe because we trust our teachers and we know they would never hurt us. We also know from the news that teachers have been trying to protect their students by putting themselves in danger and some getting killed. I would like to see my teachers safe also. I've seen that plan that Mr. Mathias and Sheriff Grinnell have said, and I stand in support.
Thank you very much, young lady. Christopher Bryan, if you can make your way up here, Christopher Bryan.
Marie Dubois, Howie in the Hills, and Ian is a tough act to follow, and I think we need to get him out on the news programs. An excellent job. I've been, since the last meeting, to several different meeting places, and I just have to say that we need to get the proper information out there. There is so much misinformation, people talking about scenarios that are very frightening, that have nothing to do with the program as Mr. Mathias or Sheriff Grinnell laid out. And so I stand in support of the STAR program or the Guardian program or whatever we're going to end up calling it, because I want to see our kids and our teachers safe.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Mike Levine. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Chris Bryan. That's my daughter, Hannah. She's a freshman at Eustis Ninth Grade Center. She aspires to be an attorney, and I'm sure she'll do her best to make the world a better place. I wanted to talk about the busing. We live in El Sereno Apartments between the two different one-ways and Eustis there, and I don't know who is my representative for my. Okay, yeah, I voted for you.
Thanks.
We're 1.6 miles, so it's a 2-mile radius. I'm also aware of what's going on in Tallahassee right now where they're discussing it. I heard there was some sort of option where I can present my case that it's unsafe for her because she's got to walk either down 19 with the traffic to her back, the lighting's poor, or down North Shore, which is kind of a secluded road. Either way, not being safe. And I mean, to be honest, I want her to carry like a stun gun with her or something, but she can't take that to school. So, but to address amazing point you made. So I'm just wondering. I talked to everybody. The 3 teachers, guidance counselor, and assistant principal I spoke to all agreed that the 35 minutes to walk to school, directly to school, was not a safe walk. And I'm just wondering if we can. I don't know. I paid for her to walk the 0.4 miles away from school to catch a bus stop, but I'm just wondering if we can get something closer, or if you guys are doing anything with the 1.5 mile radius.
Okay, yeah, we will. Mr. Carr, will you raise your hand? I know you're here. If you would mind, I know you have some information here. I wrote it down, but if you would get information to Mr. Carr, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Jim Rotella?
Ready for me?
Yes, sir.
Great. What a critically important issue school safety is, and I just want to thank all the members who will actually cast votes for whatever proposal finally comes to the table. I don't envy you of the decision you have to make. Obviously, there are very strong opinions and emotions on both sides of the argument. For me, as I look and see what's going on in the world today, obviously, let me just start by saying that education is the most critical factor that influences the success or lack of success in all of our lives. And it is critically important that our schools are safe so that our children and our teachers are in a mindset and an environment where they can succeed. And after watching these horrific atrocities happen across our country, influenced by things that are going on all around the world, I just want to say that I believe that the most immediate solution to the problem is to support arming our or allowing the arming of our administrators and those teachers who are willing and able and qualified to do so. And I think that the proposal on the table is a good, strong proposal. The point that I'd like to leave you with is this is the most immediate solution, and we cannot afford 1 second where we could have done something and didn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levine. Carolyn Mamoni. Yes, sir.
Jim Rotella, Tavares. It's hard to embellish what Ian so eloquently put out. He covered a lot of points, and Marie also brought this out. I just want to let you know that a couple of years ago, I was in your Take Stock in Children program, and I was a volunteer servicing some of the kids at Umatilla High School. I walked in there with no identification. Nobody stopped me. I could have been anybody. And it wasn't until the third visit, finally somebody asked me for identification. There was a sign-in sheet, but I could have been anybody. Nobody really likes guns. I don't like guns, but it's the world we live in now is socially and culturally changed where we have danger in our classrooms, and that's going to be there. It's not going to change. We are going to have another shooting. As it's been mentioned, the most immediate near-term solution we have to deal with is getting contemporaneous coverage in the classroom so those kids are protected. The teachers are protected. The staff is protected. The only way you're going to deal with lethal force is having lethal force present on site in time to do it. The response time, as you know, is not sufficient. There are not enough resource officers on campus to cover the ground quickly and effectively to deal with a shooter. So you really have to have somebody on site in plain clothing who can be well trained. And I think 132 hours is more than enough time. When I was in the Army, I think I had 5 hours of training on how to shoot an M16. So I think we can have properly trained individuals there, biometrics on the gun so nobody else can use it or misuse it, and you can have real-time, real effective coverage for these kids. That's what's needed immediately. Long-term, we have to deal with the social issues. We should have the lockdowns, and we should have maybe one-point entry on the schools so we can't have various people come in off the street. But those are longer-term issues. Immediately, I would support what the program is that Sheriff Grinnell's outlined as the STAR program, have the teachers trained, and let it be known that we have a deterrence here. These are not killing fields, and anybody who has the wildest idea of entering a school will now know they're not open killing fields, and deadly force will be met with deadly force quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bradron Schwindman.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to us tonight. This is Carolyn Mamoni. I'm from Yalaha. I am in full support of Bill Mathias's plan. I'm sure it's going to change, but we need something. And I don't want to say everything everybody's already said because I agree with everybody who's spoken, especially our student representative this evening. But I just want to remind you guys, I listened to the meeting from a couple weeks ago. I couldn't be here. But everybody who was opposed to it was opposed to it because they don't understand the program. And they're opposed to it because they want to be opposed to it. There were so many people coming up here and speaking saying, you know, how are they going to know who the people are that have guns? Well, they were supposed to put a vest on. Well, what if a child takes the gun away from them? It's going to be in a safe. There were answers to all the questions that they were opposing it. They just weren't listening to what anybody else said because it was opposition to what they believe. So just remember that when you're making your decisions, that you have a lot of support out here. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maloney. Sue Hooper, you're next. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Fredwin Schwendeman, and I'm here to speak in support of the STAR program. I think that we very much need to get this implemented.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Sue Hooper, and I just had an experience last night when I told my daughter, whose son goes to Windy Hill, that I was going to be at this meeting supporting the STAR program. She has no idea what the STAR program is, but she says, Mom, if they have guns in schools, I'm taking my kids out of school. She got so upset. We need to settle down. We need to listen. I know it's a very emotional conversation, but we need to have it calmly and try and listen and listen to reason instead of just going off. And I do support the STAR program. And if anyone can help me with my daughter, I'd appreciate it.
All right, Andy Dubois, if you can come up here, Mr. Dubois, and Ken McCard, if I can ask you to come up here. Thank you. Hey, Mr. Dubois.
Madam Chair, members, and Superintendent, my name is Andy Dubois. I live in Howey in the Hills. I applaud, I don't remember your name. It's Ian. I applaud you. You have very passionately and factually, in my opinion, presented the rationale for taking the actions that you described. And I stand here in support of the STAR program presented by Member Mathias, as well as our fine sheriff. I want to talk about the resources that we currently have in this county that can make this happen. Between Sheriff Grinnell's expertise, the resources we have in the schools, those willing and trained personnel that will protect our kids, that will help us eliminate our soft targets that exist at this very minute. And right now, I consider our kids to be sitting ducks until we implement the STAR program. When we have special deputies that are trained with 132 hours that specialize in neutralizing threats, that specialize in active shooter situations, that those skills that aren't even given to our on-the-beat deputies today. That's the kind of protection that I'm confident that we can do by supporting the STAR program. And I ask each of you members to look at that, to set aside the frothy emotionalism that's rampant throughout our community and take action to eliminate these soft targets that exist at this very moment. And I think to do otherwise is suicide. And I ask you to please consider doing that. Questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Jane Yeagle. Jane Yeagle.
My name is Ken McCard, and I'm here in support of the STARS program. It's a very common sense proposal. It's not an emotional presentation. We think today we're presenting a lot of facts that you're probably aware of. We try to keep our points short because you've heard them all. Ian did a great job of covering most everything we need to cover. As a history teacher and political and government teacher in high school for years, I'm often struck by a very important poll. And I know you folks, I will say it, like to get reelected. You want to do good things. You might think some things might affect your election because you want to do some other things that may not be so popular here. But, you know, prior to World War II, there was a very important poll taken, or became famous anyhow, that talked about should we be involved in what's going on with the Japanese and the Far East and with Germany and Europe. 31%, actually I'll put it the other way, 69% said it's none of our business, stay out of it, we'll come to no good if we get involved, and 31% of the people felt we had an obligation to get involved, that we could possibly cut it off at the quick if we do get involved early. And President Roosevelt was doing things behind the scenes to alleviate pressure on Russia and England and so forth. But that poll has always stuck with me. So if we're looking at polls and trying to figure out what people think about particular issues, that one needs to stay with us because that separates the politician from the statesman. History tells us that it's always been the few who have protected the many. I was somewhat discouraged by a local news station. I guess it came out of Orlando. I'm not sure what station it was. I have no idea what station it was. There was a lady. She was a little elderly. She was a teacher. I don't have any problem against elderly teachers. I'm elderly. And she was talking about how she was not hired to carry a gun. That's not why I got education. The point is, we're not asking her to carry a gun. She is not qualified to carry a gun emotionally, probably physically, and whatever else. She doesn't want to do it. So, but that's what this news station kept showing. It didn't show anybody else who had a different opinion, and that's an example of fake news. In other words, a news company deciding, I'm going to show one opinion out there. It's a truthful opinion, but it's not giving people the opportunity to think, well, there are other positions among teachers than what she reflected. I also want us to consider not only what's been said here today, but I guess it's been said quite a bit that there are military people out there in the community, retired. There are retired police officers, retired firemen, who would, I'm sure, spend 2 to 4 hours a week in a school and would contribute to the STARS program.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Walter Price.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. And Ian, you are a very mature young man. Thank you. I am Jane Yackel. I taught in the public school system for over 40 years, 10 years in Alabama and 30 plus years in Seminole County school system. I retired in 2006. When I was growing up in the school system, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or treat others as you would like to be treated, was always before us in our classrooms, in our hallways. And also the 10 Commandments that told us not to lie, not to steal, not to murder. Those were always before us also. And when I taught school, I tried to instill those ideas into my students in my classroom. I also met each student, even those big fifth graders, I met my students each day at the door with a hug, and as they left in the afternoon, a hug, because I knew that might be the only hug they got that day. Our culture has changed so much since we took God and prayer out of our schools. The violence we see on TV, the movies and the video games all glorifies killing, and our society has become desensitized to those who watch it or participate. In our culture today, it's often about me, me, me. It's not the guns that kill the person, it's the person that pulls the trigger. If I taught today, would I want to carry a concealed weapon? I'm not sure, but I know my husband, my late husband, would have encouraged me to do so, to protect myself and my students. I would hope that we would have our male teachers or coaches or principals. I hope that there would be those in the schools who would choose to do so. Because what good was the resource officer or the 3 deputies that didn't go in the school, or the response time would be too long that could have prevented the 17 who were killed. So I would hope that there would be people in the school who would be willing to carry a gun and respond in a crisis. If I were a teacher today, I would feel safer if we didn't have gun-free zones. That just leaves our schools vulnerable. And I support Bill Mathias and our sheriff, and I hope you do also. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou Brown.
Thank you, school board members. I probably won't be quite as passionate as Ian was with his great speech. It takes a lot of guts for someone at his age to stand up for something that's so controversial. I commend you. Very good. My name's Walter Price. I live here in Tavares, and I have two granddaughters in the Lake County school system. They both go to Tavares Elementary. And I'm, of course, a concerned grandfather, concerned for their safety. Recently, Governor Scott signed Senate Bill 7026 into law. That was a hotly debated bill, both the House and the Senate, but it passed. And one of the provisions of that new law is the Coach Aaron Feast Guardian Program, similar to the STAR program, previously known as the Marshall Program. And I'm here to speak in favor of this portion of the new law being implemented here in Lake County. Lake County will not have to shoulder all the costs for the program, since $67 million has been allocated by the state of Florida for this program. The program is strictly voluntary and under the purview of the sheriff, with both the sheriff and the school board having to agree to implement it. And as you've heard, a guardian will be required to complete 132 hours of firearm training and safety. He or she would also have to pass a psych evaluation. They'd have to pass a drug test and complete certified diversity training. Individuals who exclusively perform classroom duties as classroom teachers are excluded from participating in the Guardian program unless they are ROTC classroom teachers, current service members, and a current or former law enforcement officer. So it wouldn't just be any teacher willy-nilly if you're following the Guardian program. This program will give our schools an extra layer of self-defense, especially for schools in outlying areas where the police response could be delayed due simply to the distance for the sheriff's department, police department to get there, or in case the police do not immediately come into the school like they did in Parkland. The Guardian program needs to be done in addition to other school hardening procedures where an additional $98 million has been allocated by the state. According to the Crime Prevention Research Center, 92% of all mass shootings happen in gun-free zones. So we need to let any future potential attackers know that the Lake County schools are no longer gun-free zones, which would be akin to a burglar coming up to somebody's house and seeing a sign that says there's an alarm system in this house, and they will most likely not break into that house because they're not going to take the chance. So I think them knowing that the Lake County schools are no longer gun-free zones would be very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Gwen Fox.
My name is Luke Brown. I live in Mount Dora, Florida, and I want to commend you, Ian, for your level of understanding and insight into this situation at such a young age. You've made quite an impression on everyone here tonight. So thank you for doing your research and your homework on this. It was well done. I was a preschool teacher in Illinois, and I never ever had fear of anyone coming in with a gun and shooting my kids. Right now, I'm a grandmother of 14 children, and 4 of them attend Chicago Public Schools. I will yield the rest of my time in support of Bill Mathias and Sheriff Grinnell and the STAR program, and hope that we can set a trend so that I don't ever have to go to bed at night wondering if I will see my grandchildren again. This is really a dangerous thing, and we have an opportunity to do something first and foremost and be a trendsetter for other schools who are going to face tragedy. Let's not be one of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Audrey Wicken.
Good evening. My name is Gwen Fox. I live in Mount Dora, and I currently do not have any children in Lake County schools. I do in Seminole County, and actually have a great-granddaughter in Coral Springs. It brings it close to home, folks, when you think, had she been older, she could have been involved in that. It's frightening. I'd like to commend Ian. I think you are a tremendous reflection of what the school systems have been putting out. And I commend you all for young men and women who are able to stand up, speak, and have a clear voice on how they feel, and that they feel passionate enough to put themselves out there in front of everybody else. I do want to let you know that I strongly support the STAR program. I think Bill Mathias needs to be listened to very strongly. I am very confident in Sheriff Grinnell. I think any program that he would bring up, he's going to be responsible for. He knows where the buck will land. He would not do anything that he didn't feel was in the best interest of this county, this school system, and the people that live here. He loves it, he supports it, and I think what he is suggesting is one of the wisest things we could do. Please give it careful consideration. These are our children, they're our hope, and this is what it's all about. God bless you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mae Moss.
Good evening. My name is Audra Wicken, a senior at Eustis High School. My background gives me insights that many of you in our audience and our community may not have. I'm president of 4 clubs at Eustis High School that focus on service to this community, developing business skills as a future leader of America, leading my peers to Christ, and developing my morals as a conservative teenager. My family is rich in the background of security, guns, and academics. Through years of listening to my father tell stories of his life, one of the most fascinating ones has been him vividly explaining the opportunity he had when he was commanding the honor guard at the University of Florida and providing event security and protection for the university president, state politicians, and various people of importance to our country. In addition, my grandfather tells me stories of the days when he and his friends would bring their shotguns and ammunition to school and put them in the corner of the principal's office for hunting after the school day. Yet, there were no known school shootings in my grandfather's and father's days. Why I bring up these stories is to bring up the point that in the past 60 years, the guns in America have not changed, but our culture certainly has. I'm very aware that our schools in Lake County are vulnerable to almost any predator who has the intention of killing or wounding students. Our schools are gun-free zones, and most school shootings happen in schools designated as such. A common complaint across our nation is that making schools secure from deranged murderers is just too costly. I ask you, just what has been the cost of the Parkland High School student body, the teaching staff, the parents, and the families? And then Parkland will bulldoze its killing field and rebuild a facility at an estimated cost of $35 to $40 million. The Parkland experience could be our experience here in Eustis and Lake County at almost any time if we don't make a change. There are experts that can help us in establishing a secure perimeter, guarded and controlled entry points, armed security personnel, whether police or academic personnel, and solid, safe-walking doorways with bulletproof glass for our schoolrooms. These are just common sense things. The Second Amendment gives we, the citizens of the United States, the right to keep and bear arms for protection and to secure and protect the blessings of liberty from those who would take our rights from us. The Florida gun/school bill that was just passed would raise the age at which a Florida resident could purchase a gun to the age of 21. I would ask you, at what age do our citizens of our nation receive benefit from our Bill of Rights? There are plenty of young men and women who live out from under mom and dad's wings and before the age of 21. Do they not have the rights of self-defense against predators? Our inalienable rights are God-given, not to be granted or taken or weakened by local, state, or national government.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know Ms. Moss, May's not here.
Oh, Mia is here.
Okay. Did you want to speak? Perfect, because you were next on my list, so you go right ahead.
Ron Moss from Umatilla. The young gentleman and the young lady expressed my views superbly. I do support the STAR program. I support Bill Mathias, and I support Sheriff Grinnell. And we do need to do something, but let's get it done.
Okay. Thank you. Can I have Margie Eaton over here, please? And then after her will be Diane Riordan on this side. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Margie Eaton. I live in Leesburg, and you provide my generation great hope for our youth coming up, as does the lady that spoke. I feel like everybody else has spoken. The one thing I want to bring to your attention is I work in the criminal defense arena. I worked at the public defender's office. I've worked for the state attorney. I'm now a judicial assistant, and I can tell you that if everybody followed the law in a perfect world, I would not have a job. The problem is the people who we say gun-free zone, can't bring guns on, they don't follow the law. They don't care. So we have to do something in protecting our children. I have no children in school right now, but I have a granddaughter that in a few years will be attending school. And I don't ever want to hear, I don't even want to hear that someone went into her school and started killing other people, whether it was mine or not. We've got to do something about this. We've got to get rid of the knee-jerk reactions that we have to something that's so horrible to hear. It's very sad to hear that children are killed, and it's even sadder to hear that teachers who were protecting those children were killed because they were protecting without any real ability to stop that person. We need to start looking at this STAR program that he and Bill Mathias and Sheriff Grinnell have spoken about. I think it's a wonderful start. It may not be the answer. It may not be just how it's laid out, but let them do it. And also there was a gentleman back here that said, you know, if we've got to get people from the outside, our veterans, and I know many of them, are more than willing again to protect those that they did when they were in service. So please, please consider this, because it's true what people say. I have at my door at my house a sign that says, "We do not dial 911. And people will say, well, that's a little extreme. But I'll tell you what, if there is somebody going through my neighborhood that knows if they break into my house and unannounced, I will shoot them, they're going to pick a different house. And I feel like that with the schools also. When they know that they're unprotected and that they're basically an open target, that's where they are going to go. And we have got to stop this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Eaton. Samuel Durrance.
My name is Diane Reardon, and I'm a Lake County resident, and I'm really thankful for Bill Mathias and for the sheriff that they have the bones of a system already thinking about it, because this is not a new issue. It's been going on for several years. I wish we didn't have to have this conversation. It's very sad. I think back on when I was in school. I went to rural schools in Kentucky and Tennessee and rural Florida. Everybody came. They had guns in the backs of their trucks. There was never a shooting at the school. It's not the guns. I had guns at my house when I was a child. My father was in World War II. We had to have guns. My mother could shoot a long .32, just like you see on Gunsmoke. And she was good with a rifle, and I can shoot a rifle. But they never come up and shoot us. They were our protection. So I'm very thankful that our sheriff and Bill Mathias have thought ahead. And when we are having this discussion, we have something we can put in place very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Colanda, over here, please. Hey, Mr. Durrance.
Hi, my name is Sam Durrance. I'm from Claremont, Florida. I have a son that's a senior at East Ridge High School. Was actually a student of Ms. Gilligan's when he was a freshman. I checked with him. He said, yes, I had her for geometry. So thank you. But I stand in support of Mr. Mathias's proposal, as well as Sheriff Grinnell's also. One thing that I do like about it, unfortunately, we have to consider financial burdens. I like that a good part of this would be a one-time expense. The safes, the guns, the vest, etc., would be there and in place, and not an ongoing expense. Other than maybe additional training and that kind of thing. So I like that about it. Something else that I have not heard anyone bring up, and right after the shooting in South Florida, I don't understand why we don't have a couple of National Guardsmen at each school immediately. I went to a football game in Tampa Stadium. I don't know if they're Army or National Guard or what, but they were walking around in uniform with weaponry, which unfortunately I know we don't want necessarily our kids, but I think they would feel better having that protection, even if that were just a temporary measure. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dennis Kulonda.
My name is Karen Kalanda. I live in Leesburg. I strongly support Bill Mathias and Peyton Grinnell, but I also have to admit that I am overwhelmed with the speech that our young students gave. If they represent us, we're going to be in good shape. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Jessica Kirby. If I can have Jessica Kirby here.
And I'm Dennis Kalanda, Karen's husband, and also very much an advocate of all you folks and the work you have done to make our school system so much improved here in Lake County. And I want to thank you for your time and attention that you're giving to this proposal. It's novel, but on the other hand, you have an opportunity to lead in an area where we can provide not only a deterrent to school violence, but also a volunteer caring cadre of protection for our young people, and at minimal expenditure or resources to the community. It is a win-win situation, and more important than that, as you can see here tonight, you have the support of many of the people in the community, and it's your opportunity to lead and to show the rest of Florida that Lake County knows how to take care of its students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jalen Bennett. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I came in here last time and I was really mumbled, so I'm going to try to do the speech that I did last time and really get it out there and let everybody know exactly how I feel, especially because I have two of my own that want to speak tonight because they really feel passionate about this. So I'm going to tell you that I stand with Mr. Mathias. I really do, and I want this program to be in effect and I want it to work. We need to protect our kids and not have more killed. We need to do two things. We need to protect our most valuable assets and arm the few teachers that are willing to shoot if it came to it, as well as pass the requirements mentally. The second thing is we need to parent our kids. If we took the time to teach our kids right from wrong and raise them, like a flower, we give them love, attention, discipline, all equally. They will flourish and shine and bloom bigger than we could imagine. I bust my butt raising my kids, all 6 of them, to be decent human beings. I put my heart and soul into them and raise them with confidence. And I teach them that it's okay to lose. These kids these days that are shooting are not getting this attention. And instead of parents pointing fingers and the community pointing fingers at people, show your kids how they need to be teaching, and instead of bullying other parents. You don't want your kids to be bullied. Do it correctly. But as far as that, we can't do that at school. So we need to teach our kids not to be this. But for right now, unfortunately, we need the guns in schools. We carry guns daily. My husband and I both do. We've taught the 4 older kids of ours, they all shoot. My youngest over there, the youngest to do guns is 8 years old, and he knows how to shoot. He knows how to do safety. He knows how to do everything. You don't see him going out there and being deranged and killing people. We have probably good 20 guns in our house. We shoot. We go to the gun range. We go out there to the Ocala National Forest, but everybody needs to care and put forth the effort into one another. So that's just what I want to say. We need the guns.
Thank you, Ms. Kirby. Zachariah Kirby. Over here. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bennett.
Hi, my name is Jalen Bennett. I attend Eustis Elementary School, and I am in my last year before I head to Eustis Middle. I gotta say, with some of these kids we go to school with, and we need parent control. Our communities need to come together and do things together. A non-judgment zone would be nice. Helping and encouraging other parents would be amazing. It would show us kids a much better example, and maybe would change many kids in a better way. Another thing is all schools need is a counselor that can be a listener whenever they are needed, not just there for school purposes like schedule changes or more. We need them to be available without an appointment so we can talk on impulsive without rethinking ourselves out of it or feeling like we aren't good enough to talk to. The third thing is I am for teachers with guns. While I agree that some teachers lately are just straight loony, I trust my teacher to protect me every day at school from harm. Why not let the teachers who go through the proper training properly protect us? Their lives matter too, and I want them to be safe and keep us safe, the safest as possible. For people who think teachers can't kill the students, who said they have to shoot to kill? Why can't they aim for their arms or legs? The second the person gets shot, that gun, their weapon would probably drop. We wouldn't have to die. I want to feel safe at school every day, and knowing the qualified teachers would have our backs and would give me more time to focus on academics.
Christine Cruz.
Hi, my name is Zachariah. I'm in the 2nd grade at Eustis Elementary. I love my school, my teachers, and my life. I want us kids to feel safe at school. I don't want to feel scared. I want counselors we can trust to talk to at any time we need them. I want my teachers to carry guns and protect us. My mom said that guns classes and mental classes will be more hours than cops. So the teachers that pass it and are willing to go above what they already clue for me and my friends should get lots of praise and thank yous and get paid more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Sherry Hall. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Christine Cruz. I live in Eustis, resident of Lake County. I have a 15-year-old who's a sophomore at Eustis High School. And I asked her 2 weeks ago after the last board meeting if she felt safe, and she doesn't. She doesn't feel safe in her own school. That's your jobs. Your job is to educate my child and keep her safe. I spoke to one of her friends that was with her. Her friend has been homeless multiple times. If you're familiar with Eustis, her friend lives off of Bates. There's been multiple shootings off of Bates. Her friend feels more safe at home than she does at school. It should not be that way. The Star Guardian program, it's great and it's a great start and I fully support it. But it is only a start. I've got 2 years for my daughter to be in school and she has been scared every day. Every day she has gone to Lake County schools. She's in gifted classes. We're not talking, she's not in classes where she's exposed to kids who are super violent. She's with some really great students. And what do? What do I do as a parent? How do I tell her, keep your chin up, open up your books, study, get good grades? You'll get out of Eustis, you'll get out of Lake County? Is that the answer? Does she have to leave the county? Does she have to leave the public school system to be safe? There are a lot of parents who feel that way right now. Do they take their kids out of school so their kids are safe? I don't know the answer. It's not my job. My job is to try to make my daughter feel as safe as I possibly can and give her a hug and give her a kiss and keep encouraging her. And to show up at a night like tonight and ask you to please do something so my kid feels safe at school. And try to do it soon. You guys can talk about things for years. I get it. I can too. But don't let this just sit on an agenda item and vote on it the next meeting, the next meeting, the next meeting, the next time somebody's got an idea. Keep in mind, right now, Tomorrow when kids are going back to school, there are kids that are not feeling safe. And they're waiting for you to make up your minds and waiting for you to do something for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dan Siocum.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Hall. I just want to say, as a proud member of the NRA, we should not be voting with our emotions. I have one thing to say. To stop a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. I support Bill Mathias and Sheriff Grinnell, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Dan Siocum. And next will be Charlene Timmerman. If you want to come into this side.
And I didn't even get an early warning.
I said your name. I did say
didn't
it.
hear it before. Van Siocum, I write the blog fiscalrangers.com. I think I ought to point out that you see here before you a very respectful crowd. They were not organized by people in red shirts that are following a national political agenda, following a book called The Rules for Radicals, which is the idea is never let a crisis go unfollowed. And so they say never let a good crisis go to waste, such as protesting any cause that will divide citizens, which leads to conflict, resulting in pressure for government to reduce freedoms, such as speech or gun ownership. That is what I saw last time. And I think I need to point out that a lot of the people that you saw speaking, they follow that philosophy. They're there for a political gain and not for protecting the kids, in my opinion. I support Mr. Mathias and Sheriff Grinnell's plan. I would also like to see pizza at the meetings in the future here. I just, since Mr. Mathias is a kitchen king, that I would think there would be a kitchen out there and we'd be getting some pizza for coming to something like this. And teachers should be allowed to carry. My mother was a teacher in the Los Angeles Unified School District. She taught in a Watts High School, the ones that had all the riots. She had to live with having to lock up every single thing in her room because the school administration would not take action on thievery and everything else. And it took her years to get transferred to another school. And then they brought in students from those others, and she ended up having a stroke and died because of the stress of having to deal with that all again. So I've seen this. I lived in California where it's a lot worse than we would see out here. And I would I know you've collected a lot of ideas. Superintendent Cornegay and the rest of you have collected many ideas, which I agree with. You need school counselors. A lot of the things that went on at that school down South Florida were atrocious. And if you look at it, there is a pattern in the country, and that's my belief from watching a lot of news sources that maybe you don't all see, that there's a tendency to tell the cops to stand down, and it's almost always in a Democrat-run city. And that's because, again, they want to create violence, and they want to create an attempt to create a crisis. And so keep that in mind. Focus on a lot of these other things, the counselors, going into the communities and finding out when somebody is having an issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carol Knighton. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Charlene Timmerman. I'm from Eustis, and I raised my 3 sons through the Lake County school system, and I now have one granddaughter here that I love with all my heart, and I can't imagine having her go to school and never seeing her again. I think that the teachers that want to carry guns, we should allow them to do that with the training and the proper background check. I also think for financial reasons, there are enough people in the community, especially our off-duty officers, I have a son that's a firefighter that would be more than happy to go into the school to protect the children, especially his own that's there. I have a husband that I love that's been is a retired veteran that served for 22 years that would also protect his grandchild from these deranged people that enter the school. I believe what the two young people have spoke here, I think you need to listen to them. They're our future. Besides the guns, I think there are other things that can be done that would be less costly as far as hiring people to come in and protect the kids. I've seen recently where there are ways to bolt doors, that if there was some type of a system, an inexpensive system, maybe it's the way the bells ring in the classroom, that if we know that there's a known shooter or a problem in the school, that the alarm could sound in a certain way that would alert the teachers to bar their doors. I think there's a way that there possibly is glass that could be put in the ground floor schools so that if there's a shooter on the ground floor, some of those children in the school that was recently shot, that the kids were harmed by the flying glass. Some of them died because of the glass. We can do something with the doors. There's things up at the top. There's things you can put at the bottom that you can't, when you go to push from the outside, you can't get in. If the teachers, we have a teacher here that could speak for this, if there was an alarm sound to where the rooms were locked down and we had enough people on the campuses that could go in and protect these kids, one officer that covers grounds, these huge grounds on these schools, are not going to protect these kids. It's not going to happen. We're kidding ourselves. One won't work. We need more. We have volunteers. It won't cost us anything. Do background checks or whatever we have to do to pass these people to come in and protect our children. And I ask you to not wait. I agree with the lady out there that says, don't keep talking about it. Don't keep talking about it. We're going to lose more kids, more teachers. And I'm just going to say one more thing. I look at every single one of you up there. You must have a child or a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, someone in your family that's in these school systems.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you see them, if you stood there and watched someone with a gun pointing to your family, would you let them shoot them?
Thank you.
You need to act. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carol Knighton. Good to see all of you, and thank you for listening to us. I come from a much kinder, gentler time, the 60s. I want you to know that we did have electricity, and no, George Washington was not in my graduating class. And we did have problems. We had problems in our high school. But you know what? The problems were not the guns in all the trucks that were out in the parking lot. Our problem was trying to get the principal to let us dance at noon in the auditorium. We have created problems for our children that are not fair to our children. Let me highlight a couple of them. Excuse me. By the time the average American child reaches 18 years of age, he has seen 200,000 violent acts on television. We need to understand the impact that has on our young men. We have ignored the effects of psychotropic drugs on the minds of our young people. We have preached speaking out and see something, say something. And we have set up hotlines and tip lines at our local police departments as well as in our federal law enforcement offices. And then we have ignored the information given us through those resources. We have tied the hands of mental health professionals through our HIPAA laws so that they cannot legally share information. And we have blatantly advertised that our schools are gun-free zones, setting our school populations up as easy targets. So while we attempt to unravel the maze of problems we have created, we owe it to our children to keep them safe as safe as humanly possible in our schools, as safe as our airports, as safe as our arenas and stadiums, and as safe as our government buildings. Came in here the other day. I was greeted by a really handsome law enforcement officer. "Can I help you?" he said. "Yeah, I'm trying to find something." We don't even have that much for our kids in schools. And if that safety includes training and arming good people with guns to stop evil people with guns, then so be it. Do something. Do it now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes our public input for this evening. We have no unfinished business, so we have our consent agenda. Superintendent?
Recommend approval of the consent agenda, items 8.01, 8.02, 8.05, 8.06, 8.08 to 10.11.
Okay, you guys have heard the recommendation?
So moved.
Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you, that passes. We will start with 8.03, pulled by the superintendent.
I'm just going to open it up for discussion from the board. If you have questions or concerns, we do have staff here to address those this evening, so I'd like to get your questions before we bring them forward.
I guess I'll start. When I was looking at the paperwork and the bid tabulation and recognizing that we have a local representative, that Brown & Brown, that was not successful, and I wanted to just hear from staff what was pervasive about selecting an out-of-town company for a minimal amount of savings. If we could speak to that. It's $140,000, but I would submit to you that Brown & Brown has some over 20 employees located in Lake County that all pay property taxes, have kids in school, some even have kids that are teachers, and it just seems, I'd like to know what the rationale was to make that decision.
I'm going to ask Lauren DeRitter if she wouldn't mind coming forward and answering that question, as well as any other questions that the board may have.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I was part of the RFP selection committee, and the total cost of the employee benefits consulting and brokerage services was not the final deciding factor of the evaluation committee. We were looking more for value than the bottom line price, because we want to be able to provide our employees with the best benefits that we can get for them at the most reasonable cost, and be able to provide these benefits to our employees in the most efficient manner. So the company out of Orlando, Gallagher, offered us a very robust employee benefits management software platform. It's called Explain My Benefits. Those people are based out of Oviedo. The system that we're currently using, provided by Brown & Brown, is called Bennywise, and that system is, it requires that we have to do double data entry. We have to enter the system in Bennywise, we have to enter the information in Skyward. The new software programs that are available now have educational components embedded in them that help employees make the decision, explain the benefits to them a little bit better so that they can make informed decisions. And the systems are capable of talking back and forth so that we don't have to do that manual double data entry that obviously increases the chance for errors. The program also has a cell phone app so that people that don't sit in front of a computer every day, our employees like our bus drivers and our custodians and our food service workers, would be able to go through the open enrollment process on their cell phone with an app. very efficiently. And we just think that it provides a much better service to our employees and hopefully better savings in the long run.
Do we, is it Lake County's job to do the manual data entry, or is it the previous? broker?
Yes, that's our staff.
So, okay, so is that a substantial time?
It is, and it's not just the significant amount of time, but when you're entering all of these deductions by employees, there's a lot of adjustments that go with that. It's so much more efficient and accurate if you can have an electronic feed.
It's not just at the beginning of registration or something.
No, it's throughout the system. Whenever anybody makes any changes mid-year, new hires, as well as open enrollment.
Bill, weren't you on the committee?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm on the one for architecture and engineering. I was
Gotcha.
not on that one.
Okay.
No.
Is there somebody who's on the committee?
I've been at the insurance meetings, and I was not privy to this meeting.
We're not?
No.
Oh, okay.
So if I can paint a picture, because insurance is really complicated.
It is.
And I know that in my life, it's something you hate to pay, but you're glad you did if you have something that happened. So if someone comes in, because we're self-insured, correct?
Yes.
Then the expectation is that the district, or that in the case of right now, Brown & Brown, do they go through it with the employee? Because I don't participate in any of the benefits.
No, the services that the broker and the consultant, it's all in one. The benefits, the services that they provide to us would be going out and negotiating with the dental carrier, the vision carrier, the life insurance carrier, and getting us the best rates. So they do the brokerage service piece.
Right.
But then they also, we want someone who will provide us with compliance guidance and make sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, that we're doing it the right way, and that we're fully compliant with the Affordable Care Act and all of those, moving pieces there, that we're providing our employees with all of the required forms at tax time. And we also want to make sure that they're providing us with efficiency guidance to make sure that we're doing everything the best way.
And Brown & Brown has not done that, in your opinion?
Well,
or somebody's opinion?
Well, and one of the other things, I don't want to miss this, is during open enrollment, they provide us with excellent support during open enrollment when we go out around the district and we have the meetings at the various schools and at the bus lots. They have their staff there that help enroll all of the employees.
And that is, Brown & Brown has done that in the past?
That is correct. That's
Had they
also
been-
part of the service provided.
And they have been competent at that?
Yes, sir, they have.
Okay.
What have they been incompetent at? I'll ask.
We've had a couple of.
What do you want that?
Okay. We've had a couple of missed opportunities. Aside from the software platform, it's, there's newer, better, more efficient stuff out there now. But so the software platform is one major thing. The review committee weighted that very heavily. Another thing was with the consulting services. And compliance services. We missed an opportunity earlier this year. And if you want the specifics, I was reviewing a newsletter, like a trade newsletter, that had an article about the potential pitfalls with having a health savings account or a high deductible health plan in combination with a health and wellness center, that there could potentially be a tax violation there for those employees with the health savings account. If you gave them these employee benefits without having them meet their high deductible first. So if that makes sense. So I inquired. Yes, sir.
We don't, everyone's on the same plan though, correct?
No, sir. We have multiple plans, and we do have a high deductible plan.
There's more. That's part of what they're supposed to be doing.
We pay for that one plan, but if they want to go
That's
above
right.
or
Then we give
beyond.
them a choice. They could pick some of the others. Okay.
Yes, sir. We
All
have
right.
multiple plans. So we do have some employees that were on a high deductible plan and had a health savings account that we're using our health and wellness centers. So when I went to Brown & Brown and asked, are we okay with this? I was told, yes, you're fine. But I did a little bit more digging. I ended up getting a legal opinion, and yes, we were absolutely in violation. We had to back up. We had to offer those employees a special open enrollment period, and now we have to charge them a copay if they want to use the health and wellness centers so that we're compliant with IRS guidelines.
Okay. I think there's a lot to be said, me personally, that in those opportunities when I need to speak to an agent, that he is in downtown Leesburg. It's not Brown & Brown, by the way. It's their competitor. And so that's all I have to say about that.
Question. Mr. Campbell, go ahead.
The question I have, and I've asked, and I've got many different things here that's been sent to me even tonight, but the bottom line is the price that they show is $315.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
What I've asked is, what did Brown & Brown quote?
They quoted $250,000.
$250,000?
Yes, sir, and that was a drop from, I believe we've been paying them about $460,000 for the past, I don't know, many, many years. So they did drop their price to $250,000. But, you know, we're looking for value, not just the price. It's not like a gallon of gas.
I understand.
A set of tires.
I understand about the value part of it, because low bid is not always best bid.
Correct.
But $65,000 difference to me is a big difference. And what are they going to give us $65,000 worth of benefit above someone that has been doing a good program for years? The other thing I asked when I was in my meeting with about this was, I understand Aflac is not a normal policy that this company that we would go to if we approve this tonight. So therefore, the employee, if they want to keep this Aflac program, they would have to keep it separate, because this company doesn't, unless they're going to charge us more that's above this $315 that's here tonight, because they want to keep the Aflac and they want that company to go ahead and keep it being brought out of the payroll deduction. So it's going to change that $315 to more, because that's something that's, am I incorrect on that?
No, sir, you're not incorrect, but we are looking at other alternatives to Aflac that we hope to have better prices, lower premiums, better coverage that are much easier to work with, because Aflac is one of those companies that doesn't work well with any software platform. It is an absolute manual process. The billing reconciliation is extremely difficult for us to manage. The service on our end has not been superior. We think that we can find some much better alternatives out there that will provide better service to the employees at lower premiums.
Well, I can tell you, people that have benefited from Aflac would tell you different.
Well, they pay their claims really well. They do.
Right. They didn't pay me, but these other people they paid. But I mean, you know, they would argue that to do this, and my concern is this. We're saying there's things out there that's better than Aflac, but nothing has been presented yet, because we won't do that until we sign this new contract with this company. And that worries me also with a employee that we have now that is covered in our insurance under these special policies that they have. Or is it going to roll over into these new policies that they're going to automatically be accepted because of maybe some of they're in a high risk with the company they're with now, and now if they go to a new company, are they going to be automatically grandfathered in, or they're going to say, I'm sorry, you got to wait a year before we can find out, or we won't pay for a year until we know that you are not having anything from that current that you have now? Because that's the way insurances work.
Generally, when you change to a new carrier, they have an open enrollment with where they waive the underwriting. So it's like a automatic enrollment for all new employees when you switch to a new product. So my understanding is that for the standard products, we would attempt to negotiate that if we make a change.
But it's not in writing yet and guaranteed, and like I say, that's a concern I have. We have some people that have some heart conditions and other conditions, cancer and things of that nature there. And if we change, this company may say, I'm sorry, they're a high risk. We can't just take, they're going to have to stay a year clean before we'll allow them to be insured by our company.
And they would still be able to, the Aflac policies are portable. They would still be able to maintain that policy.
And I have one that I pay separate. I have some that I pay that's still deductible, but because we also changed our policy of how many that we allow to be deducted from our check, therefore it went separate outside, and that's why I had to pick up. That's what I was told. And that was under the previous CFO. So, not our current, so I will say Karen did not tell me that. All right. But that's some of my concerns that I'm looking at the employees that we represent up here and make decisions for, and to me, this is a major decision. And I understand that there's some concerns about maybe way that our present company have done things in the past. But, I mean, did we bring these things out? Also, and I'll hush.
Well, it does seem to me that if the whole discussion, which weighed heavily, was a software discussion, buying software, it certainly seems like they could have discussed that there was this compatibility problem or whatever. But I would never make a decision on a firm based on software. Of course, my relationships are all based on relationships. And I just want to point out one last thing is that I am the liaison, when you ask about it, to the Education Foundation. And Brown & Brown has been a major contributor to the Education Foundation over the years. I think giving up some commissions even, I think. So now I'm going to shut up.
Well, can I just say one more thing? It was, we did have a committee of people, and everyone spent a great deal of time evaluating in tremendous detail all of the proposals that were submitted. And our criteria wasn't just the software and the price, but it was also the consulting services, the actuarial services, and it was a big package, and we evaluated everything, and the committee's recommendation was to go with Gallagher.
The previous company doesn't provide actuarial services, right?
No, they did not.
Did we ask them to?
Yes, and with their revised, with their RFP submission, they did offer to pick up the cost of the actuary. But the Gallagher Group, one thing that we found more beneficial there is they have staff actuaries and not just a contact saying, here's the person, we'll pay their fee. They have people on staff that will handle this for us, which is something that we need.
Are we just going with big business versus small business? Is that's kind of how it feels?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. We're just looking for the best value.
Where's their home office?
Well, I don't know where the home office is, but all of the people that we will be working with are based in Orlando.
What is the effect to this year's employees and their benefits with this RFP process and the timing?
Okay, that's a good question because we have our annual open enrollment period. We have to have our open enrollment before summer, before all of the teachers go home for the summer. We have to have everything all lined up for our 9/1 effective dates so that they can make their selections for when they come back to school because, our benefits premiums are only deducted out of 10 checks. So in the summer, nobody pays for their insurance, but they're covered through 9/1. So before everybody goes home, we have to have open enrollment. We have to have all of the products lined up. We have to have all of the prices lined up. And so we're in a tremendous time crunch now with the bid protest that was filed. That's already put us back a couple of weeks that we really need to get moving.
But the next item on the agenda is extending their contract, right?
That would be extending Brown & Brown's contract, and that was as a compromise to resolve the bid protest. Even though we feel like we did nothing wrong, we thought we wanted to extend their contract for 60 days, which would allow us to continue to use the Bennywise program with our current products that don't expire till 8/31. they'll still provide the support for that, and they'll still collect the same commissions and fees that we've been paying them for the past couple of years, for another 2 months.
But if we
And
need
then
to go 90 days, they would do that probably. Did it get this right? Yes or no?
90 days would put us out of the time frame for the new products on 9/1 and the open enrollment.
So the 60-day timeframe is the opportunity to get everybody else enrolled in the new program, but continue the services from the old program. The 60 days is all we have?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
So what's the alternative?
Well, the alternative is, I suppose you could disregard what the RFP review committee's recommendation is. I would have to defer to Steve Johnson on that, on what the alternative is. Our recommendation is to move forward.
You have two alternatives. One is to advise the superintendent that you're not, you don't like the contract price, and that you want the staff to renegotiate it. Of course, to do that, you'd have to give them some parameters of what you're looking to get out of any second round of negotiation. Then they would go back to the first selected group, which was Gallagher, and negotiate with them. And if that didn't work, then they would go on down like they would in any other. But if you review your RFP, it says that it's supposed to be negotiated if an agreement can be reached, and an agreement was reached with district staff and Gallagher. So essentially, you would give staff some direction on how to renegotiate the terms of the contract that you want from any of the parties, and they would go down 1, 2, 3, just like the CCNA process. The other alternative, and probably the cleaner alternative, is you start from scratch. You throw out what you've got. If you don't like the evaluation criteria, then you should provide some input on what you want to use as evaluation criteria, because they were specifically set out in the RFP so that both parties knew about it.
Which we don't have.
And just for information purposes, we have a card both from the Gallagher representative and the Brown and Brown representative. They've not been allowed to speak so far because you have a no contact rule for your RFPs where they're not allowed to contact you or communicate with you until after the decision's made. I believe they both want to speak to you after the decision's made, but that's why we have the cards, and you see them sitting here and they haven't spoken yet.
Well, I'm a little bit surprised that we would get this close and like under the pressure pot when this is such an important, this is so important to our employees, is their, obviously the benefit package, like up to 30%. And so I hate being put under the gun about this. And so that's just how I feel about that.
100%. All right, are we ready for the superintendent's recommendation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, superintendent.
I recommend that you support the decision of the committee, and I recommend approval of item 8.03, consulting services, employee benefits.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. All those in favor?
We need a motion, right?
Do we need a motion? We need a motion. Motion, sorry, jumping ahead. Okay, I see no motion on the table.
Okay, then.
So now we're free to make a motion, right?
Yes.
You're free to make a motion. I would suggest that the only option available are the two that I just told you that were. One is to provide some information to staff about what it is about the negotiated agreement that you don't like or want changed. They would go back to the number one ranked company and attempt to negotiate something with that. And then the second route is to redefine the criteria for selection process and send it back out in an RFP, which I
We
think.
don't have an RFP, so
Pardon me?
we haven't seen the RFP.
Correct.
So we can't say, the first option doesn't make any sense because we don't know what it says. We don't know what the RFP says.
About what?
Anything.
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily view this as a knock at the committee's decision. They were just following the RFP, but, they were following what they were given, and I guess based on that, then this is the decision they arrived at. So in order for us to give them the guidance, we need to take a look at that RFP, right, and have some dialogue about it and see if it matches what we thought we were going to get.
And you should, if you're going to throw out the entire process, which you have a right to do, and you're going to ask them to go back and do it again, I think my understanding is there's time issues that become problematic with that. But if you're choosing to do that again, yes, I think you should look and see what the RFP and see what you want for the criteria. If nothing else, I mean, you don't need to see the entire document. A lot of it's not important to the negotiated part of this agreement. But the qualifications and the part relating to how they're rated, I assume you'll want to see, because there's been no objection that they did not follow the qualifications and the evaluation criteria. So it must have resulted from you want a different criteria set.
Would it be appropriate to table the motion to look at the RFP and then bring back the recommendations?
But
if there were
let me just ask this question, that if I don't even know how long Brown and Brown, and they have a number of accounts in Lake County, but if, again, I go back to this pressure that we have to make a decision, but if we stayed the course with Brown and Brown right now, then could we not extend their role to do the enrollment, and let's get this RFP correct? I don't understand why is that possible or no?
Lauren, I'm not sure how the time frame runs.
If we went through the open enrollment with Brown and Brown, we would be tied to we would have to stay with that Bennywise system for another year. We wouldn't be able to go through the open enrollment. We would be extending,
Well, the Bennywise has been how long? How long have you been Bennywise?
maybe 10 years.
So one more year to get it right, would that be terrible?
Well, I haven't seen any moves towards getting it right.
I'm talking about getting the RFP correct. So, in other words,
Well, we didn't think that the RFP was incorrect, though.
I don't even know if it is or not because I haven't even seen it. So the idea that we would have, I'm not making any critique of the committee. Don't
Okay.
But I just think there may have been some areas that we would have wanted to comment on. That's all.
Where did the RFP originate from? That's your department.
I worked with procurement. I developed the scope of services.
Okay.
Based on our current contract and contracts of other school districts. I did quite a bit of research on it.
But for an example, what Mr. Gamble brought up with the AFLACs, for example, that you recognize that may be a concern going in? Because I heard you say that you were going to look for other alternatives.
I would want to look at other alternatives, regardless of the broker.
Do you mean an alternative to AFLAC itself, as opposed
There's lots of competition
to
out
secondary
there.
insurance companies?
There's lots of other companies that offer the same type products, the cancer products, the hospital products, the accident insurance. There's lots of companies that offer that. They just maybe not have the name recognition.
But Gallagher doesn't offer it at all.
I beg your pardon?
The other folks, they don't offer it at all.
Well, they have relationships with all of the same carriers.
But I thought I heard they couldn't.
No, that would be more of a software issue because AFLAC will not work on it will not go through any software. Whenever we have open enrollment with Bennywise, with any program, you sign up for all of your benefits online except for AFLAC, and then you have to do that a manual process because they don't work with feeds.
But if at the end of the day AFLAC's best served our staff, then the computer part of it would be very minimal to me, that you would do it manual for the benefit of our troops. I'm just telling you how I feel about it. I would not switch companies based on who has the best computer. That's all.
It would also be based on price and coverage, not just convenience of processing.
But the price here is better from Brown and Brown, right? $250 versus the $315.
Well,
granted, there's a cost that we're encumbering because your staff is doing this manual process.
That's correct.
So I guess
one question I would have is if they can do it all for $250, why have they charged us $460,
That's the big
$500
question in my mind.
for
That's
many years?
a long way to come down, but that's great.
But it also is shame on us for not going out before and waiting 10 years to go out for bid.
Right.
I mean, just being fair.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we still don't have a motion
Is
at
there a
this point.
suggestion about tabling it until we see
I-
an
I-
RFP? Is that possible?
I don't know. Is that possible?
Table it. Did anybody make a motion?
Well, that's what we're asking is,
There's
best
no
to
motion.
table it.
There's no motion.
If there's no motion to approve it on the table, it can come back at the next meeting.
After you've had a chance to look at the RFP and review what she put together and what it looks like in comparison with other districts, what services they have to offer. Because I'm understanding you can still have Aflac, it just doesn't go through the computer, but it never has. So I think we're kind of all over the place. in
Sounded like
regards
it was
to-
the same either
It's
way.
the same either way. Aflac's the same either way?
Well, we'll have to evaluate it.
Okay.
My understanding is it may be the same either way, but this price of $315 changes because they will charge per employee the upcharge to put in the Aflac. That's what I was told.
Mr. Johnson, would it be possible to ask the folks to address that since they're here?
Which folks?
The folks with Gallagher?
If the board wants to waive its right to not hear from the vendors, they could do that.
I don't know that that's necessarily a smart move in our direction. I think it would be appropriate for us to reach out to her and her committee and see what was said and the prices that we have set up and if there is an extra fee and so forth. But I don't know that we want to open ourselves up to just speak to one vendor.
And it's not a good idea because then you get into, it makes, assuming things don't go well and there ends up being a bid protest over this, it just makes it more complicated that there was additional presentation at a later time.
I can research that information and get it back to you before the next meeting then?
Can we have, I want more than this ranking. I want to know why these people ranked committee number 1 got an 85 and a 91. And, I don't understand. This is just numbers. Absolutely no data behind it.
May I ask Crystal Pearson, our procurement supervisor, to come up to address that?
So when we look at, I have a composite ranking tabulation, and it gives me that Gallagher got an 8 from committee member number 1 and a 6 from committee member, but I have no idea on what scale or how they were ranked. I assume some of that information is in the RFP, but I don't know if 90% of it was their services and 10% of it was their price. I don't know. I have no idea of what the scale was.
The criteria, there was several areas of criteria that they ranked. What you're looking at is the composite ranking.
Right.
So there are individual sheets from individual evaluators that individually scored each piece of criteria.
Can we have that information when it comes back to us?
Sure.
With the rankers, just as rank number 1, ranking person number 1, without their names.
Actually, we put all that information together when there was the bid protest, so we can get you everything that was used as part of the process.
That would be great.
And I would also ask that we send I know that Mr. Gamble referred to something he received this evening. It'd be nice if we all would receive the same documents that we've discussed before to make decisions on, so. that'd be great.
Well, it was pretty much, all but one thing, it was pretty much everything you've already received.
Oh, good.
Except for it showed, the one document showed where, as it was,
Email from Karen at 6 o'clock?
yes.
Okay. I haven't looked at my email
I
since the
didn't
board
see
meeting
it.
started, so.
I had that moment of silence. What were you doing?
Right.
moment of silence.
Well, the date was wrong.
You had that moment of silence. What were you doing during that time?
Okay.
I usually check my emails.
So I still don't have a motion.
Well,
we don't need one.
We don't need one to table? Okay, so,
The
Okay.
superintendent, I think, has a suggestion about what she's going to do.
thank you, Superintendent.
So I'm going to recommend that since we've pulled 8.03 and 8.04, that we pull them for no action at this time. We allow each of you to gather your questions and concerns, and I would encourage you to meet with Mr. Ritter and what other staff might be appropriate in regards to getting answers to your questions prior to the next meeting. And we bring this back and put both items on the next agenda.
On the regular school.
Are you going to bring them back at a workshop, at the next workshop?
You can make the workshop a special meeting if you want to move forward with it.
Because if not,
finally.
we're on spring break next week, and then.
Right.
Is the next one a workshop? I don't know. I haven't looked at the calendar.
I'm looking now.
The next one is a regular board meeting on the 26th.
Then we're good then.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm sure the Brown and Brown representative and the Gallagher representative know that the no contact continues until this is voted on.
Okay. Great. I think we are at 8.07.
That's sort of the same one, isn't it?
Did you pull that, Dr. Burns?
Oh, 8.07. Sorry.
ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, I did pull 8.07, which is the installing and replacing of the wireless access points. I get a lot of questions regarding how we're updating our technology. So our wireless access points is how our wireless computers work. And I asked Dr. Willer to speak to this because I do get regular questions from teachers on this, and this is an ongoing project. So could you please? You get
Give me one more back.
Sorry.
Good evening. So I passed out a chart to you. You will see, if you read across the top, you'll see on the 26th of March in 2012, we put wireless access points in every other classroom. And if you flip over to the back page, on the back page, you'll see that costs the board, it was approved on that date for $944,827.90. So that's what we paid in 2012. But as we went forward, devices and device density became important to us. And in 2016, USAC, or E-rate, the charges that you get on your cell phone services, thank you, for all of those charges, they changed the rules and said we could put wireless access points in and receive that reimbursement. So in 2016, 325, we put in, you'll see, we put in the schools checked, the X's in that column. So we put in those schools wireless access. The total cost that we paid up front was $329,223 with a 74% reimbursement rate. So we only paid $85,598. Same thing happened in 2017 with the schools that we did there with a reimbursement rate of 80%. And we ended up paying $78,748, so about 20 cents on the dollar. What's in front of you tonight is what we're asking to be approved, utilizing E-rate reimbursement again. And the schools are on the front side that we're looking to put in. And yes, there are charter schools on there, the conversion charters at 152,461. They have agreed to give us the money, so they're going to pay us that amount of money. We'll deduct that, and we'll give them their 80% reimbursement. So the total cost of the wireless access after our anticipated reimbursement is, again, $80,314. So roughly $80,000 all 3 years. We plan, because E-rate has you can't remove the access points for 5 years, so we tagged them with a little tag that said they were purchased with E-rate. make sure they don't get removed out of the school, so we don't have something to happen. So we plan on using the ones that we removed to address the elementary schools that are not checked. So we'll go back and start addressing those. So like Astatula Elementary, we do not have that included. We'll go and address that with the access points that we've taken out of the schools to put there. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. So do we max out the amount that we can use E-rate every year?
We have not, but we've consistently, because we have to pay it out front. So whatever we pay, we have to pay it out. And we've consistently kept it around the same funding. So next year, if we're running into problems, I expect that the wireless access points will again I have no reason to believe that they won't be addressed if we choose to refresh, replace, or address that next year. We would do that as well.
Will all of the elementaries be covered by the extra?
We anticipate with the ones that we've pulled out that we'll be able to cover the elementary schools that we have not addressed. But we may want to, some of these access points are 2012. We may want to replace some of them just because it's been 5 to 7 years. So we might use E-rate to replace those.
Okay.
Hope I addressed your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Superintendent.
Recommend approval of item 8.07, installing and replacing of wireless access points.
Now do we have a motion?
So moved.
So
Second.
moved. All right, so moved by Mr. Todd, a second by Dr. Burns. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, was that not?
It was him.
Oh, I heard Mr. Dodds. Maybe he moved his mouth. All right. All those, any opposed? Okay, perfect. It's 5-0. We're going to put a fork in this discussion this evening, so I apologize. Superintendent, we are on your report.
So in front of you, I placed our lovely new brochure. One of the things that we said we needed to do better is we need to advertise and share what all our schools offer. So we do have an advertising campaign that we're launching. This is just the start. We're also working on a video with Red Apple Media to just provide little short documentaries of the great things happening in our schools, and we'll be pushing those out as well. So I just wanted you to see our new brochure highlighting some of our programs and offerings. We'll use these for teacher recruitment opportunities as well as meeting with parents who are wanting to know what their choice options are so that we can assure them that our schools are the best choice for their child. So I wanted to share those with you. And also, where did it go? Oh, the safety survey that we all discussed at the last meeting has gone out. I'll have the results of that next week during spring break. That survey will close. We'll give everyone through the weekend. So at the meeting on the 26th, I'll be able to bring back to you the survey results that I know you're waiting on before we move forward with any decisions. So I wanted to assure you that that has gone out. And I also want to thank the hard work of Representative Sullivan along with Robert Stewart from Gray Robinson, who really championed our Leesburg High School appropriation. It did make it. Didn't make it to the full amount of $1.5 million, but as long as the governor doesn't veto it, and we're hopeful that it stays as is, we'll get $866,000 to support the construction academy at Leesburg High School. And we're excited about the potential that that's going to bring for the students and really the community overall, knowing that this was a high priority for our folks, knowing that they have jobs for our kids, and so we're going to be able to get kids ready to work, put them in jobs, and start them as early as their freshman year actually on job sites, or I'm sorry, their sophomore year on job sites, and they're going to be able to make a good bit of money even during the summer months, so we're excited about the potential there to have our students go to work. So we're very thankful to them for spearheading this and just want to encourage the governor to please don't veto our appropriation.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Mathias.
Board comments?
Oh, do we have a letter of condolence?
Okay.
We have one letter of condolence to Ms. Tammy Henry. She's the assistant principal at Eustis Elementary, and she lost her mother last week, so sympathy to her.
Any others, Mr. Kendall? Okay. Mr. Mathias.
So I almost hate to bring this up because it was such a love fest tonight, but I need to go back to last week and very honestly share how important the integrity of my service on the board is, how important it is that I recognize and support each of you and that you have of me. And of late, based on an Orlando Sentinel post, which is self-inflicted wound by me, but I want to read it. It said, Lake board member backtracks after calling Parkland student imposter. So what happened to me is that, first of all, the emotion of right after being elected and losing 26 kids to Sandy Hook and watching those pictures and then seeing Parkland in the 5 years of my service, 17 young people, and we still can't protect our campus, says against this, combined with phone calls from parents saying, crying and saying, will you please, can you guarantee my child will be safe? So there's a lot of emotion going on. That I saw a post that accused Mr. Hogg, or stated that Mr. Hogg was a character actor, and what I actually, and I shared it. But what I said was at first I thought fake post. So I Google searched David Hogg, crisis actor. And I don't care where you stand on the gun issue, this is wrong. I read he refused, and I saw it on the news, to meet with President Trump. I would give my left arm to meet with the president if I had an opportunity to talk about student safety. I thought, okay, these kids are angry at the system. Truth is, he is an imposter, and a quick background would expose him. That's what I put. There was no attack about that. Within about 10 or 15 minutes, actually, Jason, who did the article, sent me a private message and said, you might want to look closer. So I went in and found that I wasn't correct. And I immediately took this post down, and I shared earlier a post that David Hogg is a crisis actor. When I Googled him, the immediate findings seemed to support allegation. This post seems most reasonable explanation why he is in the media so often. And it went on to list his accomplishments at his school. That should have been much about nothing, in my opinion. And when Jason first called me, I went, seriously, you're going to do a post about a Facebook? But there's so much anger, and so that it has now been used and distracted some of the conversation we were having Monday week ago. And for that, I am sorry. And I apologize to each of you and to anyone that really trusts me to sit in this seat. So there were calls for me to resign. I had 8 phone calls, 5 were death threats. I happen to be a concealed weapon carrier, so I really wasn't concerned about those. And then what is everything from censure to they called the superintendent and emailed, and for that I'm sorry, superintendent. You shouldn't have to protect me. But I had a teacher that made a real foobar a week ago, and she sent me a text. Her punishment was finally established. She's a first-year teacher, a single mom first-year teacher, and she made a mistake, one that could have gotten her terminated. But her administrator is giving her a second chance. And so she was telling me that she's getting the second chance, and she says to me, I'm sorry I let you down, me. I responded, you did not let me down. A mistake does not frame your ability or commitment to our kids. I am convinced everything will work out. So with that said, I thought, well, she made a mistake, and there had to be some consequence. And so the same with me, and that there should be some consequence. So today I called this teacher in, and her mistake should not hurt her as a single mom taking care of her child. So I gave her the equivalent of 1 week of my pay to her. And so I won't be speaking about this again. I'm now at peace that I've done what is right in my mind. And again, I apologize to this board and any discomfort you may have had defending me as I would you. And that's it.
Thank you. Dr. Burns?
On a different note, I wanted to thank everybody who showed up and spoke from the heart. I think that you all spoke from the heart. And I especially am always impressed by our children who speak I thought they were incredibly eloquent and spoke beautifully and really did Lake County proud. So, and as I said last week, I'm taking this with all seriousness. I'm considering all angles, and we will render a decision when we have all of the information before us. I attended the REACH event 2 weeks ago, I think, and I was at Tavares High School. It was a really nice event that focused on mental health. It was we got to watch I wanted to plug the fact that Lake County Schools is putting on a movie called Suicide, The Ripple Effect at the Lakes, now the Lake Square Mall. We can call it Lake Square Mall again, which is nice. And we need 100 people to buy into tickets so that we can actually air this event. And at the REACH event, we got to watch the trailer, and it was really a heartwarming trailer. It's about a man named Kevin Hines, who was one of the few survivors who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and having lived near California, in San Francisco, that is, it's amazing, because I used to hike right near the bridge. And it's really a story about him turning the depths of that sorrow into a heartwarming and advocating and inspiring and spreading the hope of living your life to the fullest. So that's what that movie is about. And the REACH event was a wonderful event where we could get lots of information about the local services, which is hard to find, actually. There are not as many mental health services here, especially for pediatric needs, as you would hope. And so I've already been able to give that information out to constituents that have called me, which has been very helpful. So I appreciate Dr. Landry and everyone who put on that event. I also wanted to, we did get the compression, right? Yeah, we got $3 million. We expect to get $3 million for Lake County Schools through what's called a compression allocation. And that money was, if you remember, if anyone remembers, at the very beginning of the school term, Bill and I had worked on the fact that there was a huge differentiation between the richest counties and the poorest counties, and we were at the bottom. And through the luck of the state, we actually were able to work with our lobbyists, and there was Clay County lobbyists, and I don't remember, Jim Hamilton I remember, but the senator? Rob Bradley, yes. Rob Bradley helped really push that through. So we were actually able to get the compression, which won't help a lot of counties, but since we were at the bottom of the barrel, it will help us by about $3 million. So that's a big win for us. I wanted to congratulate the Leesburg High School boys basketball team, because they're the 2-time state champions, which is just awesome. I can't wait for them to, I hope they come before us again and I get to reach up and give them their not rings, their medals, thank you. And also I got a question about East Ridge High School and the, oh no, where did it go? There it is. Okay, about East Ridge High School. There is a walkout planned on, walk-in, well, that's a much better phrase, planned on 3/14, and somebody asked me if children would get in trouble, and what the district has asked children to do is, this is a student-led walk-in, and each school, their student government organization has presented a plan to the district, and at East Ridge High, do you want to? I'm just reading off the list. I have a list of what every school in Lake County is doing. But East Ridge High in particular will be going into the courtyard, and they'll have a student-led prayer. They'll do a bell ring of 17 times, once for each of the children that was murdered. And they will then have a song and release balloons, which I think is a wonderful memorial for the children who were killed at Marjorie Stoneman. So I just wanted to let people know that they are honoring those children, and I think in a really positive way. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Dodd?
Well, I think having participated as a very active listener and note taker in the last couple meetings, I'm having some flashbacks of rezoning. You know, the challenge with an issue like the one we are facing is that that no matter what you decide, you're going to have a very angry segment of the population, one way or the other. It's something that just in that rezoning time, I was adamant about making sure I had all the information I needed, about doing the homework that I needed to do to really understand the issue, and to put my first instinct, my first gut aside and make sure that I listen to all the sides of the argument, because ultimately I know that both sides are looking for safety and security for our students. And what that looks like, I know we as a board will have to decide, and I know it's a decision that we haven't been able to make quickly despite requests for us to do so. One, we require state approval to make some of the implementations that are being requested, and now we see that. We also need some money, right? We can't just write a check and have it bounce. So there's a process that's longer than I know that people would like. That's the thing about government. It doesn't move as quickly as you'd like, but nonetheless, I know that it's something we all take very seriously, and we'll come to the right conclusion on, I'm confident, when all the pieces fall into place. My other big observation this week has been my excitement for the attention that we've given Leesburg schools as of late in particular, particularly with this administration and the transition. I remember back before I was on the board, I was sitting out in the audience there, and I think the teacher representative was from Leesburg High School. I don't remember if he was a rookie or a Teacher of the Year finalist, and he talked about how as teachers, we are expected to differentiate our instruction, right? That there's a segment of our class that we would not just ignore. And he begged and pleaded that the district would stop doing that to Leesburg schools, that let's differentiate the resources that are provided to them. Let's allow them to be successful. And at the time, we had 2 F schools there in Leesburg next door to each other. That holds a whole district back. And to be able to sit here today and say we don't have any F schools, and we've fought for persistently to get a construction academy at Leesburg High School, and to talk about developing children. We had the Leader in Me presentation a while back, Leesburg Elementary. I hear that basketball team is kind of all right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be celebrating right now in Leesburg schools, and I'm excited, even though I'm not from that area, to see that, because as we talk about raising and elevating this district as a whole, you need everybody. You care about everybody and all the members of our district, and so I'm really excited to see that commitment. I hope that continues. The one final plug I'll throw in there is Commissioner Sean Parks and I like to periodically get out and have some conversations with our constituents. We have a coffee and conversations scheduled for Wednesday morning. Actually, is it Wednesday? The 15th. Is that Thursday? Thursday the 15th. There it is. 8 a.m. at Dunkin' Donuts in Mineola. It's kind of a loose time, so you can feel free to stop by anywhere between 8 and 10 a.m. It's nothing choreographed. Rather, you get the opportunity just to speak to a school board member, speak to a county commissioner, and in an informal setting. I always like to bring back the popular conversations to the board and tell you what the people are thinking, but I'm just going to roll the dice and suggest that people are probably going to have a couple of questions about student safety. So there you have it.
Mr. Campbell?
Well, I'd just like to say, Ian, great job, buddy. And Dr. Boyd, I know, sitting out there in the audience, is very proud of the representation that you gave tonight. You did a great job. Appreciate it. And that's my alma mater, by the way, and also the chairman's alma mater as well, a few years after me. And Faith, great job. I do not try to say your last name. I will not mess it up.
I like saying it, yeah. Gilliland.
Gilliland, okay. All right, well, but great job and great work that you do down there. And just hats off to all our teachers. Just a couple things that I think some of our people tonight presented, that they're not fully aware of what is at our schools as far as safety. We do have single point entries where they have to go in through the front office and they have to be buzzed in through the front door to get in. Once they get in, then they have to show their ID, and then they go through the Raptor program. And if they show anything in the Raptor program, then you're not allowed to go any further. If you're okay, then they give you a badge and say, okay, you can go to where you need to go. So I think there's some things that maybe some of the public is not fully aware of as far as safety at our schools. We do take that very seriously, all of 5 of us up here. And we're looking at different ways. I mean, this state does this state here does this here. This one here is not as costly maybe as this one over here, but what is the best thing is going to fit for our staff and our students and for our budget that we have, because there's a lot of things that still haven't been talked about. If we do the one thing, there's in the budget where we're going to do all this from. And some of my concerns is the governor, he's leaving. When the new governor comes in, is he going to still give us the money each year to continue these programs? I would hope that the new governor, whenever he's running, is putting this forward. There's another thing too. I noticed when I go by the schools, and I go by one pretty much all the time, Tavares High School, and I see the signs out there in front that says open enrollment. My problem, and I've been over to Eustis and Mount Dora and driving by, the problem is, to me, it's not on much of a bigger piece of paper than this. Maybe it is, but driving by, it doesn't look that big, but it's on a yard sign. To me, I think maybe we as the district need to invest in an actual yard sign, 2-sided, so that we could put it there going and coming and give it to our schools, and not something that, well, you put a date on it and it's garbage. We leave that part open. We just put on there open enrollment and maybe go that route because, and I'm sure that from what I saw, it's laminated. But I just see that way.
Yeah, Umatilla Elementary has a banner too.
Well, I know some do, but out in front of the school, to me, where it's at.
How fast are you going?
Ours is in the parent pickup line. You turn right in front of it every day.
15 miles an hour.
Sure.
But yes, most of the time on the motorcycle, yes. So I'm keeping my eyes forward and a little bit to the right. But yes. But yeah, and that, to me, that was something that I kept listening to, though, about the safety at our schools. And I think some of our parents, our grandparents maybe that presented tonight, they were not fully aware of what we do have available. And I will say, as I said before, I have 3 grandchildren in the school. And I'm very much involved in this, and I want to make sure the right decision is made and that we do what is right to protect our kids. But the bottom line, when it comes back, if this backfires, it comes back on me because I made a decision. So I want to make sure I have all the information I need whenever I make that decision. And I think what Mr. Mathias has presented and the sheriff has presented is a great program. But I also see some other programs out there that might be just as good, So I want to be open. I don't want to be closed-minded, but I want to be open to make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble. What about the student committee? I know we discussed putting like a student advisory committee together. Do we have?
So I met with the principals last week to talk about how logistically we bring these students together, and I'm waiting to hear back from our high school principals as to how we reach out. And so I asked them kind of who, what, how, when, most of these students, because they have transportation, how do we get them to a central location, and how do we best bring these students together? So after spring break, we'll have that organized and a date set to get that group together.
Okay. The only thing I had outside of what everybody else has already said, thank you again for coming. You represent your school in Lake County so well. We appreciate it very much. And thank you very much for speaking tonight, for your passion and for your concern for your safety, the safety of our students in Lake County schools. Tavares High School is having a Teacher Academy open house, and it will be on March 27th from 6 to 7. If you are interested in becoming a teacher, we encourage you to attend and see what we have an offer in regards to acceleration and opportunity. So with that in mind, we are adjourned. Thanks.